Right, today I'm going to be going over one of my currency making ideas for League Start, which is based on the newly buffed Ritual. There's multiple reasons to want to League Start Ritual in 3.25. It's been updated with new bases, uniques, a fragment, and Ritual highly benefits from the new trade market because a lot of the currency you're going to be picking up early League is stackable bubblegum currency, which will now be easier to sell. But that's not why I think Ritual will be a good mechanic to League Start with. Instead, I want to focus on the Ritual Scarab of Recognition and how that is no longer a Scarab and is instead built into the passive tree. This change overall makes Ritual an insane Alkengo strategy, and it also makes Ritual a strategy that requires 0 Scarabs to get going, meaning you can add this onto whatever G strategy you are planning on doing, as long as you have the Atlas points and as long as you run it on the Glacier map. Full transparency, this is not going to be a 15 to 20 divine an hour strategy, although Fully Juiced Ritual does have the potential to reach that even without jackpot items. Either way, this should still set you up nicely at the start of the league. Alright, so what's the interaction with Glacier and the Ritual? First off, you need to know how Ritual works, and that is simply enemies killed nearby the Ritual altar will then be respawned by the Ritual when you activate it. Ritual altars have a chance to spawn in the bottom of maps, and when Ritual spawns in the bottom of Glacier, there are like 10 unique bosses that you can kill near the altar, adding them to the Ritual. Why do we want this? Well, like I mentioned earlier, the Ritual Scarab of Recognition has been effectively removed from the game and built into the passive tree instead. This answered Appeal's notable Atlas passive now additionally grants 100% more tribute from unique slain at ritual altars, which will affect every single unique goatman spawned by Glacier. So what you want to do is wait for clearing rituals until you see if it spawned in the boss room, and if it did, kill all the unique goatmen and then start doing the rituals. Granted, the ritual altar doesn't always spawn in the boss room. I've went 10 maps without it happening, and then I've had it happen 4 times in a row. So you won't always be benefiting from this interaction, but ritual is still very good even in maps where it doesn't spawn in the boss room. Now, just how much tribute can you get from this interaction? Usually Alcon Ritual grants around 7,000 tribute. In the maps that I ran with the Scarab to test it out, I was consistently making anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 tribute on the maps that the altar did spawn in the boss room. However, the Atlas node was nerfed, it's down to 100% from 200%, so that 15 to 20k average would realistically be 10 to 14k this league. But this is still an absurd amount of tribute, and keep in mind, this is instead without a single scarab used, meaning this Alkengo strategy can be used alongside pretty much any other strategy you want to do, and you can fully juice it too as long as you run it on Glacier. And this is where we get into the speculation part. A new scarab has been added called the Ritual Scarab of Wisps. What this scarab does is it makes it so ritual altars in the area spawn a Wildwood Wisp, and Wildwood Wisp grant 50% increased tribute gained to nearby players. Now, I don't know exactly how this is going to work. I don't know if you can gain up to 150% increased tribute gained depending on if all 3 wisps are in effect, or if it's a case of 20 wisped mobs all give 50% each. Either way, this has the chance to be absurd and get you to even above the 15 to 20k mark that I was making in 3.24. If this scarab is cheap, and it should be, it's essentially just a replacement for the ritual scarab of recognition, and as you can see right here, that scarab never reached higher than a chaos throughout the entirety of Necropolis. But if they are cheap, that means once you've out and gold enough rituals and you're ready to start juicing a bit more, you can combine this with the newly buffed Scarab of Wisps, which were half a chaos for the entirety of Necropolis, to start potentially one of the cheapest strategies in the game and make a boatload of tribute. There is a chance that this Scarab, even when combined with the Scarab of the Wisps, will not grant much tribute at all, and in that scenario, you just opt out of using it. I'll test it out at the start of the league, and I'll leave a comment and pin it if it's worth using. Okay, so is Ritual actually worth running, and what look can we make with it at league start? Well, first of all, fully juiced Ritual can get to probably around 10 div per hour profit consistently, with that obviously having the potential to skyrocket if you hit a jackpot or even moderately lucky item. I did a good amount of fully juiced Ritual last league, and I'd say overall my average was probably around 12 divines an hour with no jackpot items. Other people were saying 15 to 20 divs an hour. Lightly Juiced consistently netted me around 5 to 7 divines an hour, Lightly Juiced being 2 times Ritual Scarab of selectiveness and nothing else, and Zero Juiced Ritual still prints out bubblegum currency, which will get you set up nicely at the start of the league. And to top it all off, with the new trade market, it makes it extremely convenient to sell a lot of currency from Ritual, solving one of the worst early league Ritual problems of buying hundreds of different items and not wanting to spend the time to sell. So I believe Ritual is going to be a great league starting moneymaker, maybe not as a primary mechanic, but if you're on the left side of the tree, you can chuck Ritual on if you don't mind spending the extra minute or two in your maps clearing it, and it'll add a good amount of currency per hour to whatever strategy you're running for almost no investment. And onto the Atlas tree, it is pretty basic. I've taken all the ritual nodes except from the splinters because it's a waste of points, except from this one because you want consistency with ritual. You don't want to gamble on 90% less or 80% more. You're making enough tribute that you don't need that 90% less, and 80% more is just going to feel pretty bad. We're not taking this one either because we obviously want to be able to reroll our favors. We also take rogue exiles, reason being they add uniques to the map. Those uniques are then going to get buffed by the 100% increased tribute gain. We do not add the rogue exiles are possessed by a tormented spirit because that is just adding time and difficulty to the map that you otherwise don't need. We also take singular focus because you want to sustain with your glaciers. I will say they've said that League Mechanic mobs are now going to be dropping more maps, although albeit at a nerfed rate. There is a chance that you don't even need this to sustain Glacier or these nodes, but I still reckon you probably will. Like I said earlier, Ritual can be used as a secondary League mechanic because of the lack of scarabs it uses, so I've made 3 extra trees, one that focuses on Beasts and Ritual, Essences and Ritual, and Blight and Ritual. All 4 of these trees will be in the description below if you want to follow them and league start this strat. And that's the video. At the end of the day, I could be wrong, and the ritual, even when combined with the Glacier Interaction, may not be as good as I believe it will be. But with all the buffs it's receiving, both directly and indirectly, I truly believe it is in a pretty good state and worth considering as a part of your league starting strategy. I plan on using one of my free Atlas trees on Ritual at league start, so I will pin a comment off mine a few days into the new league, letting you know if it is as good as I believe it will be.